All right, we'll call the work session closed at 6:30. We'll call the order of the meeting.
United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So if everybody's had an opportunity to review the minutes, may I have a motion to adopt the minutes as distributed?
I'll move that.
I'll second it.
I didn't get a chance to review them. I just got them the same.
Okay, you want to,
If everybody else had a chance to review them,
we can postpone that until the next meeting, until you have an opportunity to read it.
thanks. You guys want to vote, doesn't matter to me.
It's up to you.
Does the rest of the board read them?
Yep.
Okay. We're speaking for everybody?
It doesn't matter. We can still, it doesn't matter. If you want to wait, you can wait.
No, you can vote.
Or we can vote.
Okay, did I get a second? No.
Yes.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I'll abstain.
Motion. So, going to have a public hearing on the comprehensive land use plan revision. May I have a motion to open up the public hearing?
Hey Bob, should we do the presentation first and then open the public hearing?
What's that?
Should we do the presentation first and then open the public hearing?
Yeah, we'll open it now,
Okay.
then you can do it first.
I'll move it.
I'll speak up too, like you give the
Yep.
Okay. All right, so open up the public hearing at 6:33. We're going to start with Mr. Yeager. He's going to do a presentation that hopefully will answer some questions that people may have.
Your mic got really hot.
It wasn't on. Oh, I see it. You might have to log in again.
Make sure a ton of Lysander passwords on there.
That mouse will work from your seat if you can see what you're doing. If you don't want to stay.
I don't mind seeing it. So, we're here to discuss the 2023 update of the comprehensive land use plan. So, the important thing to remember here is this is not a complete rewrite of the 2015 comprehensive land use plan. We updated sections to reflect current conditions, and we'll get to the sections that we updated as we go along through the presentation. So, the CLUP serves as a blueprint that's, if it's followed, will allow the town to achieve its long-term goals of preserving the unique characteristics that make Lysander the special place that it is. The CLUP will foster planned economic development that is necessary for the town's long-term financial stability. Does everybody understand what that is? Anybody have questions on that? That's a pretty important piece of this. So I mean, I don't know how many of you have read the 2015 Comprehensive Land Use Plan. It's a pretty good document. It's very comprehensive. But one of the things that everybody needs to remember is the amount contributed to the tax base from a town standpoint, town tax standpoint by industry, commercial properties is exponentially higher, or a very significant portion of the town's revenue. If you don't have continued growth of that tax base through continued economic and commercial development, the amount that residents and homeowners have to pay is going to go up because the cost of everything go up every year. The budgets never get smaller. So having continued, commercial industrial growth is important from a tax rate standpoint for all of the residents. The other thing that CLUP strives to do is have residential growth in an organized, sustainable fashion through smart growth principles. So a good example of this is what we have on the Cold Springs Peninsula. We've got higher density development going out 370 with no sewers and no plan on how to get sewers to those people. That's an important piece of what we're trying to do here, is find a way that's economically responsible to get sewers to the people on the Cold Springs Peninsula through responsible, organized residential development. Unlike what we've had in the past, where you've got a piece of development here and then a 2-mile gap to where you tie into the sewer. That all has to be infilled. So we've put people in a precarious situation where septic systems have been constructed in soils that are marginal at best for a subsurface waste disposal, and they're paying thousands of dollars. Each homeowner is maintaining these septic systems that are, a lot of them are nearing their end of life expectancy. So what makes Lysander special? This list is based off of a survey that was done for the 2015 plan. The committee that wrote the update feels that these things still apply. The Seneca and Oswego rivers are riverfront. We got the most riverfront of any waterfront property of any town in the county. The school district, the education, it's huge. That's why people want to come here. Our school district is great. The open space and agricultural land that we have. This whole area on this map that's green, we want to keep it green. We don't want to have high density development there. The parks and recreation programs. We got great state land, we got great county park, we have great town park. Cross Lake, it's a jewel. It really is. It's a great place for recreation. And the great residential neighborhoods that we have, including Radisson and Clinton Heights, and Holly Hill, and Abbott's Landing, and all those other places. Even the residential areas on the west side of town. Everybody knows everybody. Everybody knows their neighbor. Everybody's a friend of them. So what sections of the CLUP change in the 2023 update? So we have a new mission statement. The new mission statement is essentially the first bullet on the second slide. We have a revised introduction and vision statement. We just tweak some of the language to make it clearer about what's special about Lysander and what we think that the 2015 plan has done that has helped the town, made the town a more desirable place to live. We've added a new section on renewable energy opportunities. That covers increased lot sizes for commercial solar development, lower lot coverage on prime agricultural soils, important things that play into preserving our open space and agricultural land. Update on the transportation system. We talk about the turn lanes that have been added at John Glenn Boulevard. We talk about the signal at Hicks and Hayes and what the obstacles are going forward. We talk about the river system. We talk about the new boat launch on Hayes Road that the state provided for us. Parks and recreation. We talk about the new amenities at the park. We talk about the spray park. We talk about the upcoming soccer fields. We talk about siting a new park on the Cold Springs Peninsula. Agriculture. We referenced the recently adopted county agricultural plan. The physical environment. We talk about wetlands. We talk about soils. We talk about many things that are important that need to be considered when you're planning new development. Public facilities, sewers, water, infrastructure, roads. We update the data that's included in that section. Commercial and industrial land use. We talk about maximizing the parcels that we already have that are zoned for commercial and industrial land use so that we don't have to rezone other parcels and can continue bullet number 2 on the first slide, that economic growth opportunity that keeps all our taxes low. We talk about incentive zoning, clarifying a few clauses in the incentive zoning code. We talk about residential land use and what the current land use and residential land use patterns are and demands for housing. With that being said, that section was written before Micron was announced. And that whole situation has changed with Micron. We talk about public safety and updates to the county hazard mitigation plan. So what's recommended? Recommended changes to the town of Lysander code included in the CLUP update. What's important to recognize here is these are recommendations. For these to be acted on, the town board would need to adopt a local law recommending these changes. These are suggestions. So the incentive zoning code. We further define the purpose and intent of incentive zoning. We talk about water quality of the river system through sewer extensions. And we talk about view sheds and recreational area preservation. The solar code, like I discussed before, we talk about larger minimum lot sizes. Commercial solar development limited to 30% of lot coverage on prime agricultural soils. We want to protect and preserve those prime agricultural soils while still allowing a farmer to have that economic opportunity, especially for the aging farmers that, hey, this could be a lifeline to them to be able to stay on their land. And maybe a portion of it becomes revenue for them through solar development, and the other portion can remain good, productive agricultural land that's leased by another farmer. We also recommend including life cycle analysis for all major subdivisions, not just AR40 subdivisions. We want to look at R20 subdivisions. We want to look at cluster subdivisions. Anything that's a major subdivision, it should prove that it can pay for itself over time from an infrastructure maintenance standpoint. What's not included in the 2023 CLUP update? Recommended rezoning of any existing parcels. That was something that we didn't want to do. We feel that we have the correct zoning as shown on that map right there, and that changes aren't needed as long as we maximize the potential of the commercial and industrial sites that we currently have. With that, we'll turn it over to the public for questions, comments. But if anybody hasn't read the 2015 Comprehensive Land Use Plan, I urge you to read it. I urge you to read the entire 2023 update and look at and compare the differences. You'll see that they're not extraordinary. Most of it is just and clarification. Thank you.
Where can we get that?
Okay, hold on a second. We haven't opened up to the citizens' comments. I will in a second.
So we'll put a link to it right on the front page, because you do have to search through old records to find the 2015 plan. So we'll get a better link on the website for people to be able to find it.
Okay.
I'm gonna just step away and let you guys come up to the mic and speak.
So I'll give you an opportunity. But
Could you just turn that microphone on?
before we get started, sometimes during these public hearings, people, I'll get to you. People will have differences in opinions on different things. So what I'm going to ask of you, regardless of whether you agree with somebody or disagree, just be respectful, because everybody has a right to their own opinion, and everybody has a right to come up here and express that opinion. And if you agree with it, great. If you disagree with it, we don't need any boos or hisses or anything like that. So just be polite of everybody and be respectful of each other, and things will move along. How many people, can I get a show of hands, would like to speak tonight? All right, so we'll probably keep it to around 5 minutes or so. And then we'll go left to right. So over here. Yeah, it is open.
Good evening, Town Board. My name is Ken Schmidt. I live at 8337 Oswego. I'm here primarily in opposition to the expansion of lot coverage on industrial to 80% and the commercial to 70%. So, I'll take lead from, the gentleman that was just up here speaking, the town engineer. And I think the first question that I had regarding the economic development, is where is all of this documented in the 2015 study? And then where is it documented in the 2023? What analysis has the town board or the engineering or whatnot done regarding the actual, the engineering or the economic benefit to the community and what it does to our tax basis? I'd like to see that if that exists. There is nothing specific, in that study that I'm aware of, or in the CLUP from 2015 or 2023, that specifically addresses the need for 80% lot coverage on industrial properties. Specifically, 2.5 million, if they were to increase the lot coverage to 80% at the warehouse site previously, you're talking 2.5 million square feet of warehouse space plus substantially greater traffic, et cetera. So I do have concerns about that. It talks specifically about what makes Lysander special. I don't see on that list anywhere where it says that the CLUP or what the residents were looking for was more industrial space. I don't see that they were asking for lower taxes. There was nowhere in there that those were referenced in the survey that your group or the town did previously. The situation has clearly changed. You mentioned that Micron is coming. We know that Micron's coming, and there are obviously reasons to justify, trying to allow for greater expansion or industrial or commercial space, and I understand that. What I don't see here is a measured approach towards it. I see an aggressive and a very significant expansion of the ability to put in industrial use to 80% of the lot coverage, instead of 50%, with the ability of the developer then to come in and justify to the township and to the residents why that additional space is necessary. So in essence, my opposition is to that, to the 80% coverage ratio. I don't think that it's a measured approach that you're taking right now in terms of the recommendations that have been given so far. I don't think it's supported in the plan in terms of the rapid expansion to an 80% coverage limit on, or ratio on industrial or 70% on commercial. I don't believe that it's sufficiently researched, and I'm concerned that, at least based on the documentation that I've seen or have available to me, that's demonstrated in terms of the economic or other benefits. And lastly, I'm concerned that once this is approved in the CLUP and the town board chooses to approve it in the end of this year or whenever it comes up, that there is less discretion for the town to review potentially objectionable projects that the residents particularly don't want. Thank you for your time.
These are recommendations. So in order to do that, we have to have other public hearings. So they're just recommendations on that. And right now, the Radisson Industrial Park is at, I think Radisson's at 80%, right?
60.
60? It's at 60, okay. But if you go around the towns in different parts of the county, they're higher. So they're recommendations. Even if we approve the club, that doesn't mean that 80% is approved. It's just we're approving the work that the people did. And now any of the recommendations that they are making, we would have to act on them separately. They'd be all separate things. So the club is something that we're mandated by law to have. And a group of volunteers, from the community, as well as our engineer and some other people on our planning board, they got involved, they put this together to meet that criteria, and they're giving us recommendations. And that's all they are, is recommendations. So even if we approved it today, those things wouldn't go into, wouldn't come to fruition unless we had a separate act on that. Okay?
Thank you.
That's right.
Good evening. I'm Barbara Raymond LaPrise. I live at 3409 Patchett Road, and I have this typed up so you don't have to do your notes. I understand that producing this type of plan represents a huge time investment on the part of the committee, and I thank them for their work and dedication, but I have some concerns. First, since the Micron announcement occurred in October of last year, has the committee reviewed the findings and recommendations in the plan against this project, which is just miles away from the town of Lysander, and I think Al mentioned that. And if they did, do the recommendations hold up? If not, then I, as a taxpayer, ask that the town board not approve the plan until that review is completed. Beyond the impact of Micron, the Melvin project is another huge project that will change the traffic and look of the peninsula area. Some mention was made, but there is now more clarity about the project, so it would seem that there is a need to review the recommendations against it also. In fact, the plan speaks of the need to develop a park on the peninsula, and it would seem that the park area could be in one or both of the land trust areas that are designated on the maps and drawings for the Melvin project. I don't know if that's been considered. Regarding traffic studies that are referenced in the plan, my read of the text doesn't give me a really warm and fuzzy feeling that the studies were done either pre-pandemic or post-pandemic. As you all know, the traffic was significantly different during the pandemic, and if studies were completed during the pandemic, and I saw a few being done during the pandemic, they would produce false readings. Speaking of traffic issues, I would really encourage the board to keep the pressure on county and state leaders to push ahead with the completion of the Beeville bypass. It's mentioned in the report, but traffic in downtown Baldwinsville will only increase exponentially as the result of Micron, and this project must be completed as part of the county and state traffic plan to handle the increases expected from the build-out of Micron. My final comment is related to development of more commercial properties in the town, especially in the Radisson area. There's some really great property in there. While some disagree with me, Radisson is a perfect place for a hotel to build, especially with Micron coming. Where are people going to stay? Additionally, more restaurants are needed in the town, not necessarily in the village. You're talking about more revenue for the town with these types of businesses adding to the town. Thank you for your time.
So when you're talking about a park on the land trust, we are in discussions regarding that. If that was to go through, we have talked about that. The problem with that is if we develop a park, or we're actually talking more about trails. What we'd like to see is a trail going from the village of Baldwinsville all the way to Onondaga Lake Park, which would make it available for residents and citizens to go all the way to the city of Syracuse. So we have those discussions, but now, okay, who's going to pay for them initially, and then how are we going to maintain them? That's our biggest issue. Now, the Beeville bypass. I've had discussions with county planning, state DOT planning, and we had a meeting with the town of Van Buren supervisor, and I had a meeting with Assemblyman Magnarelli about the Beeville bypass. So that is being talked about, and I know Van Buren and I both know that we need to relieve the pressure on the village, and so we at least have them talking, and they're going to be including that in their traffic study, because there's going to be major work done on 81, 31 going east, Route 11, and Route 57. So what I've done, talking to them, and the supervisor from Van Buren, is to say, we need to relieve the pressure off the village, so incorporate that study, or incorporate the 631 bypass in their study, and they told me that they would. And Assemblyman Magnarelli, he didn't know enough about it. We gave him a brief overview about the bypass, so he wasn't that familiar with it. I know that my wife's father worked for DOT in '72, and they had pictures of it in 1972, so it's been on the books a long while. But this is a perfect time, like you said, to have them incorporate it in their plan. I know it's going to cost a lot of money, but so is all the other infrastructure work that they're talking about. So that is in the works. Anybody else from the left? On the left side? Okay, we'll move to the side. Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Thank you for your time. My name is Ms. Proper Procedure, and I live at 1234 Timbuktu Lane. I am asking that my comments be part of the official minutes for this meeting. Once again, we are at a public hearing without proper notice and without the documents to be discussed for this public meeting. The general public has a right to be informed. Can someone please provide a copy of all the documents to be discussed at tonight's meeting to those in attendance here now? In consideration of both freedom of information law and the open meeting law, it has been advised that a public body may not require that a person seeking to attend a meeting or speak during a meeting to identify themselves. If the board permits those in attendance to speak during its meeting, it may not distinguish amongst those who may seek to do so. Section 103A of the open meeting law specifically states, and I quote, "Every meeting of a public body shall be open to the general public," end I quote. Also, the significance of a comment or point of view involves its content, not the identity of the individual who may have spoken or written. It has been repeatedly advised that a public body may request that a person provide their name or other identifier, but that person may not be required to do so in order to speak, attend, or otherwise participate. Subsection E states that agency records available to the public, as well as any proposed resolution, rule, regulation, policy, or any amendment thereto, that is scheduled to be the subject of discussion by a public body during an open meeting, shall be made available at least 24 hours prior to the meeting. If the agency in which a public body functions maintains a regularly and routinely updated website and utilizes high-speed internet connection, such records shall be posted on the website at least 24 hours prior to a meeting. If a meeting will be streamed live over the internet, the public notice for the meeting shall inform the public of the internet address of the website streaming such a meeting. Public Officers Law, Article 6, Section 84 of FOIL states, and I quote, that a free society is maintained when government is responsive and responsible to the public, and when the public is aware of governmental actions. The more open a government is with its citizenry, the greater the understanding and participation
Okay,
of the public.
I'm gonna have to, hold on just one.
I didn't interrupt you once.
Hold on just 1 second. This is a public hearing regarding the club, not
Correct.
on open meetings law.
Okay.
So if you want to talk about the club, that's fine, but this is not
I'm
a
getting to
public.
that, sir. Excuse me.
Okay.
The public's right to know is the process of governmental decision-making, and to review the documents and statistics leading to determination is basic to our society. Access to such information should not be thwarted by shrouding it with the cloak of secrecy or confidentiality, and I quote. Subsection 4C mandates that each state agency that maintains a website shall post information on its website. Some such information shall include, at minimum, contact information for persons from whom records of the agency may be obtained, the times and places such records are available for inspection, copying, and information on how to request records. The posting shall be linked to the website of the Committee on Open Government. The notice for this public hearing was not posted online as required by law. Section 104 of the open meeting law pertains to notice. This section imposes a threefold requirement. First, that notice must be posted on one or more public locations. Second, that notice must be given to the news media. And third, that notice must be conspicuously posted on the public's website. Every public body with the ability to do so must now post notice and time and place of every meeting. The last comprehensive land use plan committee meeting notice was on June 22nd, 2022. The last online posting of agendas and minutes was for December 15th, 2021. The Comprehensive Land Use Plan Committee is a special board created pursuant to a statute and is subject to open meeting law. According to the New York State Committee on Open Government, the town of Lysander Comprehensive Land Use Plan Committee meetings were held in violation of New York State open meeting law. Minutes of meetings of all public bodies shall be available to the public in accordance with the provisions of Freedom of Information Law within 2 weeks from the date of such meeting. See Section 106 of the Open Meeting Law. Again, thank you for your time. And I want to put this in the record. Would I give that to?
You can give it to our town.
Thank you.
They think your facts are wrong, so that's all I want to say. Did we post that on the website?
It's on May 24th. It's the town website right there. We got the cursor on it. It's dated when you upload it, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
There's no notice in a public hearing.
It's also in the newspaper, both papers, official papers like the town of Lysander.
Okay. Yes, sir.
I saw Kevin come up to shut it off. I was actually hoping that Al would be able to bring up one of the second pages that were on there, but.
It's still up there.
Is it possible for you to get that? It's, I don't know, it's 12, listed 12 things. Transportation was one of them. Okay, well, Al's getting that. Fred Birch, Plainville Road. There was a newspaper article in the Sunday Post Standard. The gist of the article was, don't listen to the naysayers. We need this senior housing. In the interest of honesty and integrity, I would like to ask if anybody on this board participated in that article whatsoever.
I don't know what article you're talking about, so I don't know. If they quoted me, then I did. If they didn't quote me, then I didn't.
Okay, they just didn't put a name at the end of it of who the comments were coming from, and I wanted to see if they were coming from a developer, a board member, or what.
Normally, if I said it, they usually will quote me.
Okay. Transportation, which would be roads. The gentlewoman here so was mentioning about the bridge. And they've been talking about that since the 70s, the bypass. And I just think that that's important to our infrastructure, our community now, with the traffic flow and the volume we have now. Our businesses in the village are suffering now because people are afraid to turn in at certain times because they know they're not going to get back out unless they happen to turn right and then have to go down someplace else and turn around to come back to the village. It's certain times of the day, you're not going to see any traffic at all, but there's certain times of the day where there's businesses that are suffering in our community.
And we're, like I said, we're working on it. That's a multi-million-dollar project.
52
There's
you
no
mentioned.
way.
52.
I'm guessing, but that's a multi-million-dollar
And I
project. That's going to be a
appreciate-
state project anyway.
Absolutely,
And
I
we're
appreciate-
working on it, so.
I appreciate this board in contact with the sister community of Vanguard. Somebody's got to get on the phone with Mayor Pete if we want to get this done in our lifetimes. Okay, when they come through to do 81, let's get on the phone with Pete and say, hey, we need some of that money over here. But I think we need to alleviate our current situation before we add to it. Now, regarding the Melvin, there was a proposed...
Well, okay, this is just about the club tonight.
Okay,
not
okay,
about-
okay.
We adjourned that.
Okay, the solar, let's go with solar.
Well, it's still about the, so.
Within club,
Okay, I get it.
I just, listen, I'm not one of them tree huggers, although I love animals and the outside and stuff. And I'm for green energy if it works, if it's not uncontrollable price. But living in this community, I don't want to see it. I want the homeowner, the property owner to be able to get the advantage that Al was talking about, but I don't want to see it when I'm driving down the road. I don't want it affecting Mother Nature. We need to hide it properly, which means raise berms and fir trees so that we can't see it from the roadside. I'm all for it if all you can do is see it when you're flying above. Okay, the Parks and Recreation, as far as the second part, they've been talking about that, trying to shuffle monies around for that since 2008-9 when I started coming here. Regarding the commercial, I think it's important for our town to look in a new direction. We're lucky to have Budweiser here. I know there's some issues with them. You want to see some issues? Wait till they leave. We are lucky to have them. I am friends with a lot of people in the Fulton community that were devastated for decades when Miller left. Let's help Budweiser help us. Instead of our growing our town with more people and more houses, which means more wings and more school buses, and a YMCA within the school district, because the current YMCA that we got now that we didn't have when I was growing up isn't enough apparently. Let's grow our community industrial, and let's keep it in the industrial zone. Let's help Budweiser stay here. That will provide jobs to local people. It's going to wind up being less traffic, than 600 homes. I'm not for industrial in areas sandwiched between residential, with existing residential. There are gonna be, say my beautiful plan, we could put more places down there by Agrana and whatnot this year. It's gonna hurt a couple of people. And whenever you make a decision within the town, it's a teeter-totter. Some people are gonna go up, some people are gonna go down. It's just the way it is. And you guys are here charged with looking at the different opinions and evaluating that. So if we grow that district there in Radisson, like the gentleman was talking about, fantastic for our job. Our town, high-level jobs. Kids don't have to go out of town to look for jobs. That's a reduction in traffic if you don't have to leave our town and come back into it to look for jobs. But I just think it's a better way to look to grow our community instead of houses. Houses need more wings, need more school buses, and more traffic. And at some point in time, we gotta say, when is enough enough? We have the same main artillery roads that we had when I was growing up in the 70s. The only new roads we had are cookie cutter community roads. And I just think we need to look at that. And I know it's a lot on your plate, but I appreciate the time you've given me. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Ms. Schmidt, and I live at 3695 Hayes Road. And I have three issues, or really kind of questions that need to be considered by the board about this update to the CLUP. They regard transportation, the river system, and then the overall use of the plan as it becomes operationalized. First, I would actually disagree that transportation has been updated. I did the 524 copy of the draft, compared it to the 2015 one, which you can find on the search function of the board. And I sat down with them, and a lot of parts are lifted, and particularly 2008 study of New York State Route 370 corner pointed out that current and future developments on primary agricultural lands have the potential to burgeon into significant problems, and talks about some of the issues that are kind of realized in this plan in terms of your residential development plans because of the traffic issues. I would just note, I feel that that narrative is distinctly different from the one on 518, when people were concerned about development and what it would do to traffic on an arterial like 370 and then the connector like Hayes Road as well. Furthermore, if you look on page 9 of that report, it actually refers to the proposal of the changes to the intersection of John Glenn and 370, but those changes have been made. We have the 2 left lanes, there's a dedicated right turn lane going on, so those just need to be updated. I have concerns that it's relying on a traffic report in Appendix B. Appendix B is not on the 524 document, it is on the 2015, so I assume it's the same appendix, or appendices, B and C, so they didn't just reprint them because there's a lot of maps and stuff. But that's a 2014 traffic study, which I would suggest, given Micron and what we know, is compromised at best. Worthless, somewhere in the continuum of compromise and worthless. We can pick a point, I'm not really sure where it is. But I would have significant concerns about relying on that kind of study that's already over 8 years old as well, and in terms of the changes in particular. So I mean, that would be my issues about transportation, and I would strongly encourage the town to really update that before we actually go around with, because it is a giant undertaking to create this plan, even though it's an update and it's not from scratch. So let's make sure it's as updated as possible before it's actually adopted. Second, I have questions over just the river system and the issues. Page 15 notes about the volume and structure, that if structures in riverfront development increase the volume of waste that goes into the river, and what a concern that is. And yet there has been a practice where sites have developed, brought hundreds of more people to the sites, and there really hasn't been concerns about septic and water quality until they've been raised by residents who feel that they might be affected. The need for public access to the boating site. So the Seneca River boat launch down the road for me is a welcome addition, but it is a boat launch, and it is funded by user fees to the state, and it needs to remain that and not be co-opted by other interests as well. So it is there for people who want access to the boat. The town mentions flowage easements in both of these use plans, and it's not really clear, the flowage easement in the maps, it's not clear, it suggests that new structures were not allowed, and yet in various flowage easements, I've actually witnessed the building of structures, and what happens is people build a structure because they're able to do it themselves, so they don't need to hire a contractor, and they don't get a permit, and then all of a sudden the structure's there, and they get permitted after the fact. and now those structures are there, even though they weren't supposed to happen in flowage easement areas. Which brings me to my final comment. I know this is just the plan right now, and we haven't passed policies, and you haven't operationalized it. And I know that there's continued opportunity for public input at those steps. But with all the care in this document, and there is a lot of care and work, residential development to mitigate the traffic PACs, to mitigate maintenance obligations, understanding that the single family homes on the large lot cost us more than they get us, and I appreciated that kind of concern. The unviability of septic systems in the long term, given our soil, given trying to preserve the river as a resource. But planning, along with the policies that result, have no value if there's not oversight, transparency, and enforcement as you operationalize it. So I'm asking that property owners not be allowed to disregard this process or forgo permissions when these policies happen. We actually have to have enforcement. And if we don't have oversight and enforcement as these policies come into PAC, then then the paper isn't really, the plan isn't worth the paper that it's written on. It undermines the goals of the plan and affects the quality of life in this town. This document needs to be more than words on paper, and as we move forward with corrections and adopt a document with many solid ideas, oversight and enforcement is going to be a really important part of that. Thank you.
Is there someone else? Yes.
Good evening. My name is Jim Siddall. I live at 8474 Smoky Hollow Road. I just wanted to express my concerns, and again, I appreciate you explaining that this is just a proposal, and you guys haven't voted anything further. But the expanded lot coverage, we had a serious issue with the previously proposed warehouse. I'm sure we all remember that debacle. That was supposed to be situated between 690 and Smoky Hollow Road along Uncle Boulevard. With the proposed lot coverage expansion, what's to stop something like that trying to happen again? We appreciate the town of Lysander for the reason it is. The greenery is part of the reason we chose to stay here. It's a phenomenal school system too, yes. But we like the woods, we like the greenery. If I wanted to live in the town of Salina, I'd live in the town of Salina. We chose Lysander for a reason. We might need to keep Lysander the way it is. I understand that, if I understand correctly, you said Radisson has a bit of expanded lot coverage versus the rest of the town? Okay, and I'm perfectly fine with expanding in certain areas, or maybe raising it a little bit. To jump this insane number, it just seems ludicrous. And I appreciate your consideration on that. We as the voters will be watching. Thank you.
Anybody else in the?
Gene Dinsmore from Highland Drive in Baldwinsville, corner of Route 370. I'm really happy to see this update taking place, and I'm happy to see the same engineer getting to work on it, and I trust him to do a good job. And not a lot of things to be fixed, but there's some. But the one thing, transportation thing, when you get around to that, I'd like to come back. I don't want to talk to you today, but I can tell you that from my kitchen window in the morning, at 5 minutes to 8, when I'm getting my coffee, I decide I do a little traffic survey 2 days after the last meeting, Monday and Tuesday of that next week. 5 minutes to 8, I sat down in the kitchen window to count the cars going on 370. It took only 20 minutes to get 300 cars. Same day, Monday and Tuesday, the same thing. I didn't bother Wednesday, but there is a much heavier traffic count out there than anybody realizes, except for the people who live there. But we now have a number of new developments all the way out 370 from the village, all the way out. We just documented this addition to the Alberici one, at the last meeting, but we filled it up 370 all the way out to John Glenn. And to talk about the 600 cars or whatever that we might get out of the Melvin farm is just out of the question. But anyway, I don't want to talk about it anymore. This is all good stuff, what you're doing. Keep at it. And when we get to the other part, I'll be back.
Anyone else from the board? No? We'll go to the right. Anybody over there?
All right. Rob Helfrich, 349 Hourglass Lane here in Baldwinsville. A couple concerns with the club draft comprehensive land use plan. The decision in 2020 was simply to update the 2015 comprehensive land use plan. The CLUP committee felt there were no significant changes in the town of Lysander that would warrant a comprehensive rewrite of the document. However, one could easily argue that Baldwinsville in 2023 is significantly different than 2015. Increased traffic congestion, proposals for high-density residential and industrial development, to name a few. More concerning is the apparent trajectory for the next 5 to 20 years, for which this update of the club completely fails to identify. The draft club does not mention the word micron at all, not once. Will micron have no impact on the traffic, infrastructure, and density of our community? Why does this document ignore either favorable or unfavorable impacts of micron? The draft club relies on traffic studies that were conducted, as the lady had said, conducted in 2015 and earlier. It appears to assume there has not been any increase in traffic and congestion throughout the village of Baldwinsville and Lysander over the last 8 years. Does this draft club consider the impact of traffic and congestion with high-density residential incentive zoning such as the Melvin Farms project? The club recommends the town change the industrial lot usage law from 30% to 80% to support high-density industrial development. But the club fails to consider what impact such development will have on traffic, pollution, and the cherished ambience of Lysander. Perhaps the club committee should conduct an updated traffic study as a baseline and then overlay the impact of high-density residential, industrial, and commercial traffic. As I just mentioned, the draft club does recommend the town change its industrial lot usage law from 30% to 80% and the commercial lot usage from 30% to 70%. This is not a benign change or benign suggestion in the appendix. The town of Lysander was sued in 2021 when the town board attempted to change the industrial lot usage law from 30% to 50%. One of the claims in Article 78 was that a change in the lot usage was not contemplated in the club. On December 1st, 2022, Jack Corey, Planning Board Chairman, presented the draft club to the town board during a recorded working session. Mr. Corey justified the recommendation as a way to get ahead of high-density industrial development without using incentive zoning to change more agricultural land to industrial. He specifically mentioned the 1 million square foot United Auto Supply warehouse project. He said, and this is in the public domain, quote unquote, just on the usable land on that one, i.e. the warehouse, going from 30 to 80%, you can triple the size of the plant that's allowed. If you triple the 1 million square foot warehouse plant, simple math, you end up with 420 truck bays and over 2,000 vehicles entering and exiting the facility during the peak evening hour. I simply took the traffic study times 3. Why has this draft club not considered the impact on Lysander community and its residents of their recommendation to change the industrial lot usage law to 80%? The 2015 club did solicit input from the community. Given the likely high amount of significant change facing our community over the next several years, perhaps the club committee should survey the community for their input. Furthermore, at least for the past year, the club committee conducted closed meetings whereby there were no public meeting announcements, there were no agendas, and there were no published meetings. I used to go to these meetings when they were published. For last year, there haven't been any meetings published in the club committee. Why the lack of transparency for this process? In conclusion, I suggest the town board direct the club committee to re-engage and revise the document to incorporate citizen input, conduct a baseline traffic study, and analyze the impacts of their suggested high-density development incorporate the potential favorable and unfavorable impacts of Micron, and conduct the process in an open manner which allows for full transparency to the public. Either recognize the negative impacts of traffic congestion and pollution high-density development will have on our cherished community, or don't make those revisions in the club that support it. Thank you.
Okay. We have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Public hearing is now closed. Okay.
So, just one quick thing, what typically happens after these public hearings is the crowd thins out a little bit. And then by the time I get to make a comment, half the audience is gone or more. So before that happens, I just want to thank everybody for coming and sharing their opinions and their input. So thank you very much.
And with the club, the people involved in this are all volunteers, and I'm sure they put their best effort forward. There are a lot of smart people, but certainly they can't think of anything. And we had, motion A was to adopt a law revising the comprehensive land use plan of Lysander. We're tabling that because we did get some comments from different people, and we're gonna go back and have a conversation with the committee chair to see what we can do to address some of the concerns. And obviously, people in attendance tonight came up with some valid concerns that I think that we should address, and if they have been addressed, then maybe we need to document it more thoroughly in the club document itself. So we will be speaking with the chairman about that moving forward. Anybody?
You know, maybe it's out of protocol. I could have done this during the technical comments, but I think this would be a good opportunity for me to share with you something that I want you to hear. And if the board will indulge me, I think I can get my 5 minutes here. What I'm going to read you, and I'm going to paraphrase some of it, I submitted to the CLUP committee 2.5 years ago when they first began to meet. And I just want to share with you where this one town board member is coming from. All good plans have something very important in common, and that is they contain a vision that ties all the components of the plan together. For the comprehensive land use plan for the town of Lysander to have merit, it must do the same. It will suggest a vision that is based upon what the town looks and feels like now to its residents, and to present ideas for preserving or even enhancing those values for the future. We must begin by identifying those values and attributes of the town that define the uniqueness or the special characteristics of the place we call home. What is it about Lysander that makes it a place that stands apart from other places we visit? What are the characteristics of the town that we want to be sure are protected in a way so that we know what we now value and be there in the future as well? A good place to start is to ask yourself, how would you describe your town to another person in terms of what makes Lysander stand out? Some of this, in fact, was done in the preparation of the CLUP released in 2015, when residents were asked to value the attributes of the town. A synopsis of those values would be good at this point. Lysander is where green space and open space abounds, where there are still working farms and thousands of acres of woodlands and fields, where you can pick blueberries and strawberries as well as see those same products from those same farms in a local supermarket. Actually, they go all the way down to Washington, D.C., where driving a car or riding a bicycle on a country road is easily possible, where there's a bustling center of town, the village of Baldwinsville, still easily accessible, which offers a variety of important things for living, where by the same token, driving to other areas, to big box stores and other needs of that sort is easily accomplished, but for which no need exists for those elements to be located here, thus preventing intrusion on the town's natural and rural look. It is a town that recognizes the priceless value of having one of New York State's major waterways, the Seneca River, coursing through its center. A waterway that is enjoyed for its own recreation and visual features, along with one of the historic locks, Lock 24, which is part of Baldwinsville, that serves as a place for visitors from places far and wide to stop and visit. Where housing developments are designed to fit into the idea of retaining this natural landscape backdrop wherever possible, where all development that fits into that parameter is then first judged on its capability to be able to be financially sustainable through the taxes that are generated for all present day and future costs, especially to include infrastructure repair costs. Lysander is a livable community where, for all intents and purposes, it has been able to preserve elements of historic small-town America. It's an accessible town with a terrific school system and where people wave to other people they know as they go about their business. It is a town that has preserved its older homes, which speak to decades and even centuries of history, but which also strives to encourage that new homes are built with a sense of style and class that will last well into the future. It is also important to state what Lysander does not. Lysander does not value a cookie-cutter approach to development. It is not interested in development just for the sake of development to generate immediate tax dollars, especially when through careful analysis, those dollars would not be enough to maintain those areas in the future. Lysander is happy that other areas choose to offer large shopping experiences and to widen their roads to accommodate those types of services. But Lysander itself is not interested in developing in the same way. Any development of the remaining industrial zoned areas will also be done to fit the above stated ideals of preserving the rural and country look of the town. In short, whether it be 5 years from now or 50 years from now, Lysander will preserve its rural characteristics while still serving as one of the most highly demanded places for people to live in Onondaga County. It will remain as a place that is noted for its trees, open space, and farms. It will preserve all the good elements characteristic of small-town America while offering its citizens a responsible approach to development. I wanted to share that with you.
Okay. On the citizens' comments. So are there any citizens tonight wishing to speak regarding agenda items only?
Fredberg, Plainville Road. Item D, to authorize the town clerk to request an area traffic speed study from 1/4 mile south of Church Road to 1/4 mile north of Church Road for a total 1/2 mile on Plainville Road in the town of Lysander. Thank you.
Well,
I want to make myself, my traffic videos, my radar available to the man at his convenience. You let that message be known to the people that are in charge. Also, starting Monday, I started putting up the radar from 9 in the morning till 9 at night. Yesterday, I sent Councilor Kudarakis and Councilor Rode some pictures from the last 4 days. Correct me if I'm wrong, but they show speeds of 97 miles an hour, 84 miles an hour, 77 miles an hour, and this is happening on a daily basis. And it still happens after we've had police coverage. So that's telling me 500 tickets aren't enough warning for those people that are coming through that are abusing those taxpayers in the area. Thank you for going forward with this. I think it's important for safety in my community. Not just me, I'm looking out for my neighbors who are, for the most part, senior citizens, and one new neighbor, 5 new kids. Haven't met them yet, but. And then, listen, I have no problem coming up here and with my steel-toe boots and kicking shins. I've been doing it since 2008, and I actually enjoy it. But I'll be the first person to come up here and pat you on the back. I see here on the agenda that there's been a change in the voting times for the Mills Road Water District from 12 p.m. to 8 p.m., which I think is way more than probably needed or called for. And I just want to give you guys a big pat on the back and say thank you. I'm not a resident of that district. I don't really know anybody who's in that district, but it is the right thing to do. And thank you for doing the right thing. Thank you for your time.
Anybody else wishing to speak this evening?
Yes, and again, we're at a public meeting. None of the documents here, none of the resolutions are provided to the public. In the work session prior to this open meeting, they're talking about adding different resolutions for a claim.
Keep the
And
discussions in the audience down, please.
And none of these documents are provided to the public for review. You obviously have a very, very educated public who cares a lot about this community, and they have a right to participate. And the documents need to be provided, and if you're unaware of the laws, you really should reach out for training on that.
We know the law and they were provided, so. Okay, anyone else wishing to speak this evening? All right, move on to town board comments. So you, Mr. Rogan.
Thank you, everybody, for coming to the public hearing. I'm sure you're not here just to see what's going on tonight. I had the opportunity to attend the Memorial Day Parade in Baldwinsville, a great event. I attended the ceremony after at the cemetery. It's moving. I appreciate everybody who served. I did not serve, but I appreciate everyone who has served. And it's time to reflect. So, thank you again. Take care.
I just want to thank everyone for coming out, especially speaking in regards to the new club that's been proposed. It means a lot to me. It means that you guys care about the community as much as I do. So thank you guys for your input. Fred, thank you for sending me those pictures. Obviously, like you said, you sent them to me and Kevin, so if you want to stay after, I'll give you their phone numbers as well too, so you can send them to them.
Share them with whoever you want to. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Really appreciate the folks coming out tonight, and I think I spoke enough before, so I'll pass it on to Pete.
I would like to echo what everyone else is saying. And thanks again for coming out, everyone. Baldwinsville is a very special place, Lysander being part of that. And the way we celebrate Memorial Day is very near and dear to my heart. It's very special. I too participated in the parade and then was at the ceremony. I go to the ceremony every year and have for 30 years. If you haven't done that, you should go put it on your calendar for next year. It's on the 30th because that's the way Baldwinsville does it. But it's really worth going at. Sir, I want to thank you for your service. You're wearing a hat out there. Thank you for your service.
Okay. It hasn't been officially planned yet, but they're thinking about closing down the canal court. There's a problem with the bridge in Phoenix, the Lamson Road Bridge that goes from Lysander over in the village of Phoenix. They're having a problem with it. It's not working automatically, so they have to do it manually. So I got a call from the canal corp and said they're thinking about closing that down from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. on Saturday. Now, whether they do it or not, they haven't verified that with me, but it might be something that people want to keep in consideration if they're looking to go around there. You'd have to, it's a long way around. You can go down to the next road, down 48, or you have to go 57, but they need to let boats through because that hasn't been working, so they're going to at some point have to let people that are traveling from the Great Lakes down or to the Great Lakes have to let them through that lock at some point. So that's probably a good possibility that that's going to happen. All right, department head reports. Mr. Rizzico. Mr. Merrill.
On Sunday, May 21st, we held the annual spring pickleball tournament. During that tournament, the pickleball players sold raffle tickets and raised $900 that was donated to the Ava Wood Memorial Scholarship Fund. For beginner pickleball players, the pickleball courts are dedicated on Tuesdays and Thursdays for beginner-only play.
What time?
5 to 9. And that's for beginners only.
You have to believe that you can Just miss the ball 5 times in a row.
No. For anyone wanting to learn to play pickleball, the next introduction to pickleball is Sunday, June 11th. It starts at 1 p.m. We do have pads available to borrow. There's no need to pre-register. Just show up at 1. If they want to call ahead and pre-register, that's fine. GEMS Plus is going to be scheduled for July 10th through the 14th. That's for girls only, entering grades 4 through 8. Registration is open for that. Fort Island Camp for boys only. We did that so not to compete with GEMS Plus. It's a STEAM-based camp as well. That's July 10th through the 14th, and that's for ages 6 to 14. Registration for that is open now as well. Kickball, ages 7 to 9, be held on Tuesdays. It's 4 weeks. That's starting June 27th. Kickball, ages 10 to 12. That's going to be Thursdays, 4-week session starting June 29th. And all of these programs come up. Registration is all open now. Information is on our website and on Facebook. Pickleball for kids entering grades 3 through 5 will be Fridays beginning July 7th. That's from 1:30 to 2:30. That's a 5-week session. Pickleball for kids grades 6 through 9 will be Fridays, again starting July 7th. That's from 3 to 5. We have Arts and Crafts Club starting July 10th. Those are Mondays from 1 to 2:30. That's a 3-week session. And I believe the age groups on that was kindergarten through, I want to say like 6th grade. The information is again on the Facebook page and on the website. And then we're going to have chess club starting the week of June 26th. More information on that will be available. That's all I've got at this moment. It'll be a 1-day-a-week club. It will offer instruction for beginners as well as tactical clinics later in the summer for more experienced players. And the plan is to finish the summer with a small club tournament. That's all we got for now.
And what about the spray park?
Spray park is open 7 days a week, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Kevin, 2 things that your engineer promised me, because you know me, I live across the street. He promised some trees up by that new fence, by that lot, to block that wind from killing the 3 houses across the street. And when you're gonna get that brand new field done? It's nice, but it looked like it's ready to be farmed.
It'll be done soon.
Soon? Okay. Well, the most important thing I've been here before is about the trees.
Okay,
There is
okay,
nothing.
I'm gonna have to call this over to you and opportunity
Okay,
to speak.
just refreshing
You
your
can
memory
speak-
about the trees.
You can speak to Mr. Merrill about it after the meeting if you like.
Okay, fine.
All right? Thank you. Anything else? Mr. Sweethead?
Yes, I would just let the general public know that the paving starts tomorrow in the northeast corner of our town. All of the neighborhoods involved were given flyers, but if you happen to be through River Road between Greenview and the Melvin, 2 sides of Melvin neighborhoods, you might find some flag people and some equipment. So please, if you can avoid it, if not, just please be careful going through there.
How about the no parking signs?
There are quite a few that are delayed from 9/11. The issue being that the tiki bar side of the right-of-way used to be a ditch, but over the years, they covered it in. So they're trying to establish where the mains are and then where these signs can be put in. So this is, we have all our paperwork in. You've seen that we put up some of them. The ones that aren't up are being delayed, and that's their issues located.
Okay, Mr. Yeager? No.
Yes, I would like to read the public hearing notice for the club.
Okay.
Please take notice that a public hearing will be held on Thursday, June 1st, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. at the Town of Lysander to consider the adoption of the revised Town of Lysander Comprehensive Land Use Plan. Please take further notice that the environmental significance of the Comprehensive Land Use Plan has been reviewed by the Town Board of the Town of Lysander, the Planning and Zoning Board of the Town of Lysander, and the Onondaga County Planning. An incident to and as part of said public hearing. A copy of the updated club can be found at townoflysander.org under notices. By order of the Town Board of the Town of Lysander dated May 4th, 2023, Dina Falcone, Town Clerk. This was posted on the website on May 10th, 2023, published in the Post-Standard on May 11th, 2023, and published in the Bonesville Messenger on May 17th, 2023.
I was sure we did it. I never doubted you. Okay, anything else?
That's all I have, thank you.
We'll move on to regular agenda items. Mr. Yeager, do you have that?
Oh, yeah, the new, those ones. Do you want me to read it or do you want me to?
No, I'm going to add just.
Oh, you want to read it?
What's that? Oh, okay. Okay, so we're going to table motion A. Motion B, may I have a motion to waive the $300 pyro permit fee for the Village of Phoenix annual fireworks display on June 23rd, 2023?
I'll second
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carried. May I have a motion to waive the 30-day advance notice requirements for 2347 West Genesee Road Operating LLC pursuant to the application to the New York State Liquor Authority as set forth by the Alcohol Beverage Control Law.
I'll second it.
Okay, this was requested by the ABC board, right? Yeah. So, okay.
What establishment is that? 20?
That's the old Fireside. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carried. I have a motion to authorize the town clerk to request an area traffic speed study from 1/4 mile south of Church Road to 1/4 mile north of Church Road for a total of 1/2 mile on Plainville Road in the town of Lysander.
I'll move it.
I'll second it. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carried. I have a motion to authorize a mandatory referendum regarding the Mills Road Water District, which shall be voted on Wednesday, July 19, 2023, from 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. in the town clerk's office, 8220 Loop Road.
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Okay, go ahead.
Sure, so the town attorney provided me with a law, it's an opinion from the comptroller, New York State comptroller. In short, we conclude that each tenant by the entirety, tenant in common, and joint tenant owning taxable real property within a proposed district or extension is entitled to vote in an election conducted pursuant to town law, section 209E. However, partnerships and corporations owning such property are only entitled to a single vote. It is also our opinion that where any such person or entity owns more than one parcel within the proposed district, They are nonetheless still only entitled to a single vote. Finally, we conclude that a town is not authorized to adopt a local law authorizing absentee voting in special district elections. So basically, that means, that's why we extended it to 8 o'clock, because we can't do absentees.
Can't do absentees. And that, anybody that affects will get a letter with this information on it, explaining to them that even though we wanted to do absentees, we aren't authorized to do it.
And this isn't, it's just tenant, so anybody that lives in the district, that resides in the district. Right, can vote. And it's just a majority of yeses or no's. No assessed value, nothing. But if
No, there-
it's
no. There is assessed value.
Not for the vote.
Oh, not for the vote, but I mean, when it's a weighted vote, though.
No.
It isn't a weighted vote.
No.
It's not a
That was
weighted vote.
The weighted vote comes in when a petition is filled out
Yeah.
under Article 12. This week is under Article 12.
So there's, okay, so there's
So it's just a vote.
no weighted vote.
One
Okay.
vote per opponent.
One vote per.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you gonna include information when, are we still doing a mailer to them?
Their board is gonna draft a letter, or the town attorney and the board they're gonna draft a letter that we'll send out to the residents.
Because there's only 20 or 22 people, so it's not.
Yeah, we're gonna do that. We'll do it like right away so that people have plenty of time. If they have any questions, they can call us.
Yep.
Okay.
We've got all the addresses, so.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carried. Okay, we're adding motion F to the agenda. May I have a motion to adopt the sales of surplus asphalt road millings policy number 2023-001. This policy will replace any previous road millings policy.
I'll move that.
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
Yeah, we're just not going to have the insurance requirement. We'll work that out at another point, but at this point, you still have to get a signature from the landowner saying, I hold you harmless, and we'll work it out with Tony. But now you can start selling this stuff that you can.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carried. Okay, motion G. Have a motion to authorize payment of $440 to cover expenses of Rita Giacomelli, who fell on town property on January 17, 2023. The expenses were $350 for ambulance service and $90 for St. Joseph's Hospital emergency room. I'm sorry. Okay. Any discussion?
Yeah, will this release the town from any further?
Yes, we have a release prepared.
Okay, good.
So, Mrs. Giacomelli, she's a elderly lady. She fell in our parking lot, even though we had salted, and we were still in the process of salting when she fell. It was one of those days that you just couldn't keep up with the ice. That was all over central New York. And when she came in, she was complaining that she hit her head and that she was feeling dizzy and things like that. Because of her age, she didn't want to go to the hospital because of her age. I actually talked her into going after about 40 minutes because I just didn't want to see anything happen to her afterwards. So that's why we should be paying this anyway. So, okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carried. Okay, motion H. May I have a motion to authorize the expenditure of up to $378,000 of ARPA funding for the slip lining of approximately 2,500 linear feet of storm sewer pipe on Willard Parkway.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Okay, the ARPA funding, if you recall, that's funding that we received from the federal government, and it's exactly for this type of thing. So no it's saving local taxpayers the cost of funding this project. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carried. I don't see any need for an executive session. They have a motion to adjourn at 7:51.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned.